In the land of 10,000 lakes, a remarkable movement was born. Welcome to Hometown Hero Outdoors. We are dedicated to honoring our military service members, veterans, and first responders by providing them with unforgettable outdoor recreational opportunities. We believe those who have served and sacrificed so much for our country and communities deserve a chance to reclaim their spirit and find healing in the great outdoors. This is Hometown Hero Outdoors.
And today's another fall day as we're getting into fall at the Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast. We're super excited to have Brent here today. Brent Fenton is also known as Fire Fenton. He has a large social media presence. If you guys haven't seen it, go look him up real quick. You'll figure out who he is and then get back to the podcast and listen to everything here. Pretty awesome guy. As you can see, if you're watching the video, you'll see. But if you're listening to the podcast, he's got a bow right behind him. So he's an outdoors enthusiast too. He likes to do his elk hunting and mule deer. But he's amassed over 1 million followers across his platforms, which gives viewers a peek behind the curtains of fire service through a comedic lens. Brent is a captain and paramedic with 20 years of fire service serving in Arizona, and he has been married to his wonderful wife, Stephanie. I added the wonderful part for you. For 14 years, and together they have 4 children. Brent has a love for Jesus, his family, and the outdoors. So, Brent, thank you for coming on the podcast. I know it was a little dance there for a little bit, but lives happen. But you're here, so thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So what's the weather like in Arizona today in late September?
It made me laugh that you said fall because, right now, the high today is supposed to be 104. Yesterday, we hit unseasonably the last 2 days. It was 114 on Saturday. It was 112 yesterday. And today it's supposed to be, 104. So it's
oppressive.
It's not fall. Yeah, not yet.
Yeah, we're getting there for us too. We had a little cold snap here in Minnesota a little bit ago where we were waking up to 45 degrees in the morning for a couple days, and
my gosh,
it was wonderful. I actually just got back from Galveston, and actually I was down at the Relentless Defender Foundation gala, and we went down to Galveston, and it was 97 degrees out with like 70% humidity, and then we came back to 45 degrees, and I was thankful.
Oh yeah, nice. Seriously. Yeah, we don't have it. That is one thing about here is we don't have any humidity, but it is just this summer is holding on with both hands.
Ready for that break in the weather so you can get outdoors and do some more stuff and take a break on the air conditioning bill.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. It literally, probably a week and a half ago, we thought it was happening. We're like, oh, it's going to happen early. It dropped down to like 88 degrees. Everybody was outdoors loving life. And then it was like, nope, not yet. Here's another 110 run.
Just kidding. Yeah. No, that's too hot for me. I spent some time in Iraq, and it's like that. It's just terribly hot. And there's nothing enjoyable about any of it. But it is crazy though, because you start hitting those 70s or 60s sometimes, and then you're like, I gotta put a jacket on.
Oh yeah, when it hits 70 degrees, I'm like, oh, this is hoodie weather.
Yeah, it's crazy because here that's like 50 for me. Gets above that, I'm sweating way too much. But hey, so yes, thanks for being on the show. I really want to have our listeners learn who you are as a person. Talk about who you are, where you came from, how you got into the profession you are. There's a lot of things to talk about. You have your large social media presence with your humor that you do. I love them when they come out. And then also you have a really good relationship with Fire Department Coffee, and talk about your involvement there and maybe some outdoor stuff. But why don't you just tell our listeners who you are, where you came from, and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah. So as you stated, and it says here, my name is Brent Fenton. I'm born and raised in Arizona. I'm married to my wife, Stephanie. We got 4 kids. I've been in the fire service for just over 20 years and 6 months. And so it's good. I've got an older sister. She's also a firefighter here in Arizona, as well as her husband. So our entire family was law enforcement, and then my sister and I kind of shifted with their encouragement to go out to the fire side. So my dad did 26 years with the Phoenix Police Department. I got another uncle who did 25 with Phoenix, and another uncle that did 20 with East Valley Department. So like I said, born and raised here, and got in the fire service and haven't looked back.
Yeah, it's probably good advice on their part. I mean, I love law enforcement, but man, it's a lot. But
I was gung ho. I was gung ho to be a police officer. I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps. When I was 16, I was going on ride-alongs all the time. And then towards the end, when I was a senior in high school, um, uh, one of his officers my dad was a sergeant, and one of his officers unfortunately got ambushed and got shot and killed. And my dad took that really hard. He was one of the first guys there to find him, and just took it really hard, took it very personal, took a lot of blame he took a lot of felt the responsibility, felt like it was his fault that Mark was in the situation. And, I just remember him telling me, like, he's like, "I'm not going to your funeral. Go be a firefighter." And so he encouraged me to go on a ride along with some of his buddies with the city of Phoenix, and did some rides. And I tell the story. I was bait and switch for sure. It was like the very first ride along I went on. It was with one of his buddies from high school, and we went there, and he let me stay 24 hours, which is like, now that I know, I'm like, having a rider 24 hours would be really annoying, but
right.
but
Okay.
he let me stay for 24 hours. And at like 2 a.m, I mean, during that shift, we had gunshot wounds, stabbings, car accidents, like all the exciting things, you know what I mean? The bigger calls that people are like, "Oh, this is crazy,"
Right.
no real like medical assist, no medical aid, nothing like that. And then at like 2 a.m, we get a structure fire. When we get there, it spreads to the next house. And I'm watching these guys kick in doors and disappear into smoke. And I'm like, this is it. And then, now fast forward, here I am over 20 years on, and those shifts are few and far between. They do happen, but it's not all the time. And I was like, this is what you do every day. And of course they're like, oh yeah, that's the
Yeah,
best.
totally. Huge recruiting tool. You're gonna do this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, I mean, firefighting does have its complications too. I mean, you guys do get exposed to quite a bit of trauma as well. And
Yeah.
but I have a friend that actually just recently, 3 years ago, moved down to the Phoenix. She's a law enforcement officer there, and she's talking about how difficult and strapped they are for um, staffing, just having fill in the ranks to cover all the shifts and a lot of mandatory overtime type stuff. And I think you guys, excuse me for, I don't have his exact name, but you guys recently lost a partner down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. City of Phoenix. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. I remember, growing up when the police department, fire department. I mean, it's interesting, the shift that has happened, because there was thousands of people applying for a handful of positions. At least in the fire service, when I was first testing, like, it wasn't uncommon to have like literally 10,000 people. They'd go down to the City of Phoenix Civic Center and have it completely filled up with people that have to do 2 separate tests, like 5,000 people at a time, and you'd be testing for like 50 spots. And it's just insane. Like
Yeah.
the competition was crazy, and same thing with law enforcement. And now it's like, I when I noticed like something is different was when I started seeing the police cars. It used to be a decal that said "we're hiring," and they would put it on and take it off. And now every car that comes new is just painted "we're hiring."
It just
painted.
never
It's
leaves.
painted. It never leaves the car. They're just always hiring in it. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy.
Yeah, she's told me some of the stories about how crazy it is, and days off are never days off, and consistently getting called in to help out with different stuff. And
Yeah,
that's a tough life to live, constantly having you have your phone next to you.
mm-hmm.
Well, as far as your time in Arizona, and you started your career as a firefighter, did you start off, just walk us through your history of how you started off? You went to the academy, got launched, and then talk us as you've gone through the ranks and to be where you are currently.
Yeah. So, I got hired on as a firefighter back in 2004. And I started out in 2003 as what was called a reserve at the time. So it was kind of like almost like a training position. It wasn't a volunteer. It was paid. You got paid per call, very minimal. But you got to do a lot. You got to do basically everything. You were just an extra guy on the crew, and it was really good. It kind of helped launch you into your career and prepare you for the position that you were in. And so became full-time in 2004. And just kind of my initial goals, I wanted to do all the hero stuff. I was like, oh man, I want to be a rescue guy. I want to do, and I still like, I love all that stuff. I basically hit every goal that I had. I never wanted to be a paramedic. My dad when I was about 2.5 years on the job, we went back to Washington, D.C. This is all another, another unfortunate series of events. His best friend was shot and killed on Phoenix PD, and we went back to Washington, D.C. for the fallen police officers memorial. And while we were there, my dad suffered a heart attack. So it's kind of freaky. Thankfully, everything worked out. He made a full recovery, didn't really suffer any deficits or any issues. By the grace of God, everything was good. But I felt very uneasy in that whole time because I was an EMT. I wasn't very educated in anything beyond just basic life support. I didn't know anything about cardiology or anything like that. And I'm like watching the medics as they're working on my dad, and the doctor had said, the positive outcome from my dad came from the quick recognition of the paramedics and their early interventions that they did. That's what ultimately saved his life. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. I'm like, I got to go to medic school. Cause I'm like, if I could do that for somebody else, I got to do this. So I went to medic school. So I've been a paramedic now for almost 18 years. Love it. And again, like I said, I never imagined I would ever do that. But I went to medic school. I worked as a firefighter for 17 years. So I stayed, I never wanted to drive the truck. I tested and got on the engineer's list, but my intention was using that as just a stepping stone to go to captain. I didn't really ever want to drive. So tested for engineer, passed that. And then, at 17 years on, I promoted to captain, and that was kind of a plan for me. I wanted to make sure that I had a good amount of experience as a backseat guy to make sure that I was very well prepared to be in a supervisor role. And that was kind of, again, following in my dad's footsteps. He was, I think he was an officer for 18 years before he promoted to sergeant. And, I think it served me well. I think it definitely served him well. I think you definitely, earn the respect of your peers when, you know how to do the job and you've kind of been in it for a while. So it's definitely prepared me to be a good captain that I am. I mean, not sound like I'm freaking.
No. I mean, you're prepared and you're comfortable.
Prepared. Yeah. So I feel comfortable. Again, I'm constantly learning. I'll always be learning, but it definitely. I spent a long time in the back seat doing that worker bee role. Not that we don't work as captains, but it's just a different role. You just pivot, and now you're doing more of the supervisor, big picture things, and it's been into a lot of scenarios now that I can recall when I was a firefighter, and kind of be able to forecast what may or may not happen next, kind of thing.
Right. In my experience too, with people who are on for quite a bit of time before they promote, generally don't have any ambition to promote, period. There's usually something like a catalyst that happens and you're like, all right, now I'm ready. Or you're ready for some change, new scenery, and just like making sure you're prepared. I know, like in my career, they say that, as a conservation officer, that it takes you 7 years to absolutely experience absolutely everything in your career field and everything you've learned. And so a lot of people aren't promoting until much after that because we want to have the answers before that pops up, especially for the people that you're in command of,
Right.
So, but sometimes there's a little catalyst that helps, a little push. You see something that happens, or you want to change something here, and, you feel comfortable in your shoes at that point. Is that something that happened with you?
So I always want, my goal was always 10 years. I'm going to do 10 years and then I'm going to promote. And at 10 years, I took the test, I passed, I got in the top 5, and they only needed 4 spots.
Oh.
So it's just one of those, like, it sucked, but I made it and I was happy. I was shooting for it. I wanted to get in the top 5. I got number 5. I was happy with that. It's my first time ever taking a promotional exam. So I really didn't, or captain promotional exam, I should say. So I didn't know what to expect, but I achieved that. But then I got to act. So when you're on a promotional list, then you can act in that role. If people call out sick or different things, or if somebody gets injured and they need a long-term move up guy. I got to do that for a bit. And I had some, I'll be completely honest. So I didn't get it on that list. And then the next test I took, I didn't pass. And that was a huge shot. That was probably, I always say it, at the time it was like devastating, but now I look back and I'm like, I needed that because I feel like I was getting a little too comfortable, probably a little overconfident in myself and my abilities. And it was a knockback. Granted, there's always different things, but I'm not going to make any excuses. The fact of the matter is that I didn't pass that test. And so it sucked. And so I had to do like a remedial training and things like that. And then I did the remedial, smoked that, and the chiefs were like, "Why didn't you do that during the first test?" And I'm like, "I thought I did, but
I guess I didn't.
I guess I didn't." And then I took it again, and then I was ultimately promoted. I got number 3 on that list and made it. And but it was it just, I think everything happens for a reason, and for whatever reason, I was not meant to be. Either personally, I wasn't in my personal growth ready to be in that position, and God knew that, and it didn't happen. Yeah, so my original plan was to do 10 years, and then it took me in 7 additional. But
Yeah. Well,
here
hey,
we are,
yeah, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So, how big is your department currently?
So right now we have 6 stations. The 7th station's under construction. We have 150 sworn members. The
Oh, wow.
area is 270 square miles.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah.
pretty good size. And what's your
Mhm.
shift work look like? I know a lot of people on our show. We started to include a little background. Started to include firefighters with our mission. Originally, we started in 2017. It was law enforcement and military.
Mhm.
None of us were in fire. Didn't understand the world of fire. And as we branched out, we're like, all right, time for fire and EMS. And we got
Yeah.
to learn a little bit about it. We went through learning about first responders, medical level, and then firefighter level 1 and 2, and all those things. So when it comes down to the structure of that, do you want to let the listeners know a little bit about what that fire looks like? I mean, it's some states, it seems standardized across most of the country, but some states are a little different. But when it comes down to the structure of your training, when it comes to being a firefighter, as well as what your shift work looks like, it varies across the country to some
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah, definitely. There's you'd be surprised. I mean, in Arizona, the bulk of Arizona, there's back east, you got a lot of volunteer departments. And in general, the majority of firefighters, I don't remember the exact numbers, the exact percentage, but the majority of firefighters are volunteer. And then myself, I'm a career firefighter. So, as well as the majority of the state of Arizona, almost every department in the state of Arizona is a career department. There might be a couple really small places that have volunteer, but most of us are all, we're all career. So in the Phoenix metro area, we're part of this automatic aid system. There's 28 different agencies. We all do the same training, speak the same language. We have the same SOPs, same radio frequencies, all that stuff. So we can all integrate seamlessly on a scene together, which is very unique to some systems, because in other places I know it's not like that, where this department has these radios, this department has these radios, and they come on the same scene and they can't talk to each other. And it's
Hmm.
not, they got boundaries that they go to. And for us, it's all automatic. It doesn't matter what city it's in or where it's at, the closest truck is going to go. And so our staffing is, we have 4 guys on every engine. We have 2 paramedics and 2 EMTs on every engine, every ladder. That's not necessarily the standard. Across the nation, a lot of places have 3. Some people have even 2. And these are career places, have 3. Seems like overall the minimum is 3. And then, I know a large portion of California is 3-man staffing. And then they might staff their ladders 4-man. Other places, they even have 2-man staffing, and then volunteers, you kind of take what you can get. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and again, and then there's places that are full paramedics. So there is a wider range, but for me, where I'm at, 4-man staffing, we work a 48-96 schedule. So we work 2 days on, 4 days off. And there's a variety of schedules out there. There's like a 3-4 Kelly, where the guys will do 1 on, 1 off for 3 days. And after that 3rd day, they get 4 days off.
Hmm.
There's a 24-72 out there, where guys will work 1 day on, 3 days off. In the Valley, though, for the most part, there's the 3-4 Kelly, 48-96, and then 24-48.
Hmm.
But the
That's
48-96 really picked up quite a bit of steam, as far as just because of, you're more rested with more consecutive nights at home
Oh, that makes
sleeping.
sense. I mean,
Mhm.
really 48 hours on, so that's quite a bit.
It does. Yeah, the 48s can get really long, and my station is it's the busiest station at my department, but we're still not insanely busy. So we'll run typically at my station, we run 20 calls in a tour. So we're running 10 calls a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. But 10 calls a day, we usually get up once or twice every night. But like my sister, where she's at a very, very busy fire station, and they will run over 20 calls in 24 hours, and they don't even see their beds. It's
Oh
just like,
wow.
there's my bedroom. That's where I keep my stuff before I go home. You know?
Yeah,
So,
man. That's
yeah.
gotta be pretty taxing.
Yeah.
As far as where I was gonna go with this, I can't remember. I just had a question in my head and now it escaped me. So, no, so it's a very unique situation when it comes to the full-time career firefighters and the volunteers. I know a lot of different states have different things. You go to North Dakota and it's pretty much primarily just volunteer, except for Grand Forks, maybe Fargo, maybe Minot, very few and select. But, when it comes to the volunteer side of things, when we started to establish and bring in firefighters into the organization when it comes to our mission, we were going through the fire level 1 and the fire level 2. And initially we are going to do fire level 2. But then we found out like North Dakota, like I think the only people in North Dakota, their command staff are the only one who have fire level 2 training. Most of them are fire level 1.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yes. We're so in the Valley, I guess we would all be fire level 2, because what you'll do is you'll get hired and they send you to the academy. In the academy, you get your firefighter 1 and 2, and you come out of that academy with like your hazmat first responder, firefighter 1 and 2. You should have your EMT.
yeah, no, it's very interesting when you go across the U.S. and see the different standards. That's for EMS as well as law enforcement too. Everyone has a little bit more of a unique perspective and angle on how they engage in their careers. But no, thanks for letting us know about that. But the big part that I really want to know is your social media following. So I was fully expecting the mustache to be here. What happened?
Oh, it comes and goes as it pleases.
I love it. So let's talk about that though. So before the podcast, we just talked briefly about the social media presence and really showing people behind the scenes of who you are and having some fun, not only with your personality that you do with social media, but others as well, and really humanizing the badge and what goes on behind the scenes. So what really sparked that? What was the catalyst? The thing that you're like, I'm going to post this video and see what happens. Like where did that come from?
Yeah, so it's funny because I gave you my whole history and just glazed over that whole part. Didn't
No,
even
it's
say
all
anything
right.
about it. But yeah, no. So back in 2011, um, so my department, we do a banquet every year. It has kind of turned into a charity banquet, but it used to be like an awards banquet. They still do, firefighter of the year, EMS provider of the year, chief of the year, all these different things. And it's a good time where families can come and hang out and do all this stuff. But some of those events can be, they can get kind of sterile, be kind of boring, and they wanted something to, we gotta mix things up. Should we do dancing? Should we do this? Whatever, blah blah. And I was like, I've always had a passion for music and comedy, and making videos. I've made videos since I was in high school, and I was like, maybe I'll make a music video and see what happens. And so at the time, the song "I Need You Now" by Lady Antebellum was
Oh yeah.
everywhere. So it just kind of happened coming back from a call. Me and my partner David we were coming back on the rescue, which was the ambulance. We were coming back from a call, and we had just run a knee pain, and it was just that monotonous call where the person's had knee pain for 3 months, and now it's 2 a.m, and what better time to call than right now? And nothing's
Yeah.
changed. I just figured I might as well go now, kind of thing. And so we were driving back, and that song was on, and it was like 1:15 in the morning. And I was like, it's 1:15, call the 911 because my knee hurts now. And we started dying laughing. And I was like, maybe that's it. And I was like, maybe I'll make that song and I'll just redo all the lyrics. So I came back and just looked up the lyrics and started changing it, writing it down, went home. My wife and I, that's how we met, was doing music through our church. And I came home and showed her it, and she laughed, rolled her eyes, was like, oh my gosh. And so I recorded my part of it and was like, hey, could you sing? It's a duet. Can you sing? So we sang it, harmonized together. I made the video. And it's one of those things, in that process, that creative process, you're going over it again and again and again, and you get done editing it. And I'm like, I look at her, I was like, I don't know if this is funny. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I've watched 1,000 times. Now I don't think it's funny. I don't even know if it is funny. I was like, all right, we'll put it out there. And we brought it to the banquet and they said, we got a video, something different. This is from Brent Fenton, whatever. They play it. And the place, there was about 300 people at that banquet, and the place just erupted in laughter. And it was firefighters from my department, other departments, people have come from all over, different sponsors and stuff. And they were dying laughing. And I remember looking at my wife, and we both were just in shock at, one, how loud everybody was laughing, and then just two, how well it was received. And then everybody wanted to know where they could see it. And so I had a YouTube, but it was just I was just making stupid videos here and there. I think my most viewed video before that had like, I don't know, maybe 100 views, maybe. So I said, well, it's on my YouTube, especially for the guys who couldn't come, who are on shift. So here it is. And like by the next morning, it had like almost 1 million views. I had gained thousands of subscribers. I was like, okay, something is happening. And it was wild. It blew the lid off of it and created some drama because you could see the department that I work for in it. Nobody knew it was going to do that, and it just I never got in trouble or anything like that, but it was just, it was up, it was down. I had to take it down. I had to put it back up. I take it down, put it back up. There's a bunch of other stuff with that, but that's kind of how it all launched, but kind of by accident. And
911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, I think I need to go to the hospital. My knee just started hurting.
Is anything else bothering you?
No, it's just my knee.
Okay, we'll send help.
Pacing by the window, wondering if I should call. I bet they're probably sleeping, but I don't really care at all. And I wonder if I ever cross their mind, because I call them all the time. It's 1:15, I'm all alone and I need you now. Said I wouldn't call, but I've lost all control and I need you now. And I don't know how I can do without. I just need you now.
Another night of wishing, hoping that nobody calls. No more overdoses, I hope nobody trips and falls. 'Cause I know we are the first thing on their mind, because they call us all the time.
It's 1:15, calling 911 'cause my knee hurts now. No, I didn't fall, I've got no complaints at all, just my knee hurts now. And I don't think I can drive myself, 'cause my knee hurts now.
Whoa, whoa.
'Cause if I get hurt, I'll give you guys a call. It's 1:15, call the 911 'cause my knee hurts now.
And I bet she didn't fall, she's got no complaints at all, just her knee hurts now.
And I don't think I can drive myself, 'cause my knee hurts now. I just need you now.
And now it has really taken on a life of its own, and it's been a fun ride.
You got a lot of videos on there. It's fun though. How do you come up with some of these things? Like one of my favorite ones was recent when there was a camper in a truck that was on fire,
Mhm.
and they backed up the water tender to it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Dude, I laughed. I think I watched that thing like 30 times and I died every time. Like, how do you think of that stuff? Like, you're creative. I am not. So I'm just curious.
A lot of it is I just kind of, I kind of pay attention to what's happening around me. And that particular one is the one where I'm screaming, "That's not your job." That video,
Yeah.
I've literally been on that call. Like, actually, a good friend of mine, he works for another department, but he was trying to get hired in our department. He was riding with us, and we get kicked out on this fire. It comes out as a vehicle fire, and it's on the interstate. And we get in, the computer says semi on fire. And so it's like, all right, this is going to be a good one. And he had never seen a fire before. So he's super excited. We're excited. Get on the freeway, huge column of black smoke, traffic's backing up. We're like, oh yeah, here we go. And as we're about 100 yards out, you see the smoke dramatically change from black to white. And then as we pull up, there's no smoke. And there is a county water truck right there. And he just drilled it with his deck gun, completely put it out. And I was like, oh, and all of us were just, what the heck? Everybody's all mad.
You're ready to put it up.
Yeah. And so we get there and the guy's like, yeah, man. Yeah. And we're like, good job. And he's like, are you guys mad? And I said, I'm like, no, we're not mad. And he's like, well, I thought I was being helpful. I was like, you were helpful. I said, I'm like, we're firefighters. We want to fight fire. And he's like, now I feel bad. I took your fun. I'm like, no, dude, 10 out of 10. 100%. You see that, you do that. Don't drive by something and
Totally
not put it out. Like, I was like, it's whatever.
We
It's a
got all this
bummer
water
for
here.
us, but you did the right thing. You
Yeah.
laugh. We all laugh. We did a good thing, but
Sure
just-
would be nice if someone had a bunch of water right now.
yeah. So yeah, I just coming up with those with the videos is a lot of it is just from my own experiences, or I've found that there's a fine line between just sheer comedy and when people are angry. So when I hear guys complaining about stuff, whatever, or something that happened a lot, I'll just write it down. And I'm like, I find that when you're in a situation that's making you angry, if you can like pull yourself out of that situation, kind of look at it, it is kind of funny. And so I'll write it down and then I'll sit back and look at it and kind of pull out from that like 30,000 foot level and look at it and be like, if I could recreate that moment and then put it out there, people go, oh my gosh, I have been that guy, or I have been in that scenario, or that's so-and-so, that's so, and they share it and send it to this guy, and everybody laughs. And this
That's
is totally
awesome.
you. So
Real life scenarios that you can feed off of.
yeah. I always say
Experiences.
comedy's around us. Comedy's always around us. You just got to look for it.
Hi, this is Phil, podcast producer for the Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast. I know your time is valuable, and we thank you for listening to our podcast. Can I ask you a favor? On whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on right now, could you please give us a 5-star review? It is very helpful when growing our podcast and expanding the message of HHO. Thank you. Now, here's a word from our sponsors. Voted Best Electrician 7 times between 2016 and 2022, O'Neill Electric was established in 2016 and is located in the Stillwater, Minnesota area. They provide commercial, industrial, and residential electrical installation and maintenance services. Their team strives to be the most helpful electrical contractor you'll ever work with, from the office to the field. Licensed and bonded in both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Go to their webpage at o'neillelectricmn.com. Founded in 1922, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association, MPPOA, is the largest association representing licensed peace officers in the state of Minnesota and fights to maintain the highest ethical standards in the profession. Licensed police officers with the MPPOA membership have access to the Legal Defense Fund, homeowner and auto insurance, have a voice in the Minnesota legislature, and more. Go to MPPOA.com for more information. Relentless Defender set out to design clothing apparel that police officers could wear with pride.
They sell only top-of-the-line apparel, bringing you custom soft ink designs not found anywhere else. Relentless Defender makes it a priority to give back and donates a portion of all sales to various police charities. They stock all products and ship out same day whenever possible. Visit them at relentlessdefender.com.
So you've been doing the social media stuff, you said, since 2011.
Yeah.
And do you, so I know you do collaboration videos and stuff like that with other people. And also you're wearing a t-shirt we can talk about too, called the Fire Department Coffee Company.
Yeah.
So I know you do collaboration videos with others and then also with the Fire Department Coffee. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I love to do collaborations. I've collaborated with a lot of different people over the years. I especially, it's just fun to connect with people over, common things. And for me, it's also a lot of fun to collaborate with people where it's just completely separate worlds and you can just come together and do fun stuff. And it's just fun to be able to just bring a smile to somebody's face, let people escape reality for just a little bit. That's my whole thing I love that. My goal is to make my page an escape, and I don't want to, you're never going to see the videos of, I don't know. You're not going to see, watch as firefighters bravely do this, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, we do that. Or law enforcement, they do, like, you're going to see satire. You're going to see stuff that's funny. And so, yeah, collaborating is always fun because, you just reach broader audiences. I got involved with Fire Department Coffee back at the end of 2020. And so me and Jason Patton from Fire Department Chronicles, him and I had talked for years, just kind of trying to come up with something, collaborate back and forth. And then he came on board with Fire Department Coffee, I believe in 2017. And then, we'd just been talking for years. And then at the end of 2020, he introduced me to Luke Schneider, who's the owner of Fire Department Coffee. And they invited me out. And so the beginning of 2021, I came out to Rockford, Illinois, and we were going to make a video. And it was kind of like their first date with me. My first, I don't know, who is this guy, whatever.
Right.
So yeah, in Rockford. Yeah. And it was freaking freezing. It was February. It was like the warmest day when we were there. It was 17, like ridiculous. And we were spraying each other we were doing a St. Patty's Day video. And we were spraying each other with green water out of a fire engine. And it was so like, literally couldn't film one day because it was snowing so hard.
Oh man.
So we filmed we had to film a different video inside, and the next day the snow was done, but it was just freezing cold. But we had a great time. We hit it off. I got to meet all the guys from Fire Department Coffee, and it was just awesome. And I remember flying home and was telling my wife, like, it was a lot of fun. I was like, I really like those guys. And, I was home for, a day, and they're calling me the next day, like, hey, we'd like to make this not just a one-time thing. We'd like to invite you out or invite you as part of Fire Department Coffee. So I joined the ranks of Fire Department Coffee and have been with them ever since. And it's a great time, man. We get to travel around. We usually about 4 times a year, we'll go to the Illinois Fire Service Institute in Champaign, Illinois, and we'll film. It's always a whirlwind. We go once a quarter. We're there we film for 3 days, and we do about 20 videos or so in 3 days. And it's just insane.
Wow.
As we've done it more and more, we get more and more efficient. And, but it's a good time, and it's been a blast to kind of come up with these fun ideas and
I've actually driven out to DC, and I was on the way home 2 years ago, and I was actually behind a Fire Department Coffee trailer for quite a while. I probably headed back towards Illinois, but
oh yeah,
I don't know who was driving though. I tried to get a peek, but they probably were going back that way. I've driven through Rockford probably a dozen times. I don't think I ever stopped there though. I keep moving.
Yeah.
I've heard stories.
Yeah, Rockford has some rough areas.
That's all right though. What place doesn't though?
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's that's where it's all at. It's been a lot of fun, and Yeah, like the whole city of Rockford smells like coffee now. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Just from the
awesome.
roasting.
Yeah, I actually reached out to them when I was reaching out for you, and I wanted to talk to them about doing some stuff together too, since we do support firefighters, and seeing if we can help out with spreading the brand and the coffee for some of our local fire here. But we are in several states too, so hopefully we can make a connection here with fire department coffee in a little deeper way. I think it'd
Yeah.
be cool. So as far as your you have your outlet with your videos and the satire that you do, you have a good support network and whatnot, but in the fire industry, do you do anything with wildland fire or just purely structure?
No, so I'm also my department. We have a special ops division, and in that we have our technical rescue hazmat and our wildland team. And so I'm a member of our wildland team as well. A lot of our area, it's a pretty diverse area. Like I said, it's 270 square miles. So we've got everything from like where my station's at. We're right in the middle of 2 large care homes. There's a mall right down the street. Like it's city. And then you go 5 miles to the north and you're going to get into some like urban interface where people have larger acre, larger square foot homes, larger acreage properties, and it gets out into open land. So it's 270 square miles, but a lot of that is open desert. So we do a lot of wildland urban interface. And so actually just 3 weeks ago, I just got back from a 2-week deployment. So we'll deploy all over the state. We'll go all over, really anywhere in the country. We have a truck that just got back from Idaho. So kind of go all over. Yeah.
Well, it's a small world. I actually, with my career, I deployed to wildfires too to help with security as a security level 2. And I've been in Montana, Northern California, Oregon, Northern Minnesota for all that stuff. The red card side of things.
Yep.
And it's interesting because not a lot of departments do have that ability. Some of our volunteers do have, in outstate Minnesota, do have some of that minimal training, but it's a whole different world. I think a lot of people don't really understand. People hear firefighter and they mainly think structure fire. And when you talk about wildfire, we have a gentleman coming on the podcast in a couple of weeks here who does nothing but wildland fire, and I'm really excited to have him at least be able to share his experiences and educate individuals on what wildland fires. When you're in the Midwest up here, wildland fire is not something you hear very often, but out west, it's constant, especially down by you too, with how dry it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we send, and pretty much every deployment, I mean, you're going into a deployment knowing that it's going to be at a minimum 14 days. It could go up to 21. We go all over. We send everything from UTVs with paramedics on them to all the way up to like type 3 engines. We've done type 1. We sent type 1s to California when it was burning a few years ago. I went to Napa in 2017 on a type 3 engine, just up there for a couple weeks. And yeah, I love it because, I mean, again, I love the outdoors and I love to camp. And a lot of it is you're going into the most beautiful places you would otherwise have no reason to go to. And you get to fight, you're fighting fire, you're camping out, you're doing it with your friends, and it's just, it's hard work. You get to go out there, you get to see these spots, you make a little bit extra money, and then you come home and you get to bring also that experience back to your department. And but it's
sleep for an entire week straight when you're done.
Yeah.
I don't know how those guys do it. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The hot shot guys, the hand crews
this is crazy.
It's a different beast for sure.
And the lack of protection, like, they're going in with their green pants and yellow shirt and a helmet. And I mean, obviously some other things, their fire shelter, but it's just wild, especially with how quick everything can change in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's any fire, but
yeah, I don't think people really understand it's not just, going out in the woods and being like, yeah, I guess we'll do something here. I mean, every wildland guy is like a meteorologist, you know what I mean? Like they all are very in tune with the weather, what the weather patterns do, what the weather does, what if the weather's doing, humidity and inversions and all these things, and like what that means for fire growth, fire spread, all that stuff. They're all very in tune with that, because if you're not, that's what's going to kill you. Weather, fuel, and topography are the 3 things that move wildfires around. And if you're not paying attention to all those, you're going to find yourself in a bad situation. And you can be paying attention to all those and still end up in a bad situation. Cause that's one thing we always say in the fire service is we work in the world of, crap happens, and sometimes it just happens.
Right. What's the movie about the hot shots down there? Was that New Mexico? or is that Arizona?
That was Arizona. Yeah. I can't remember the name of it. The
gonna have
name
to
of
look
the
it up
movie,
now.
but it's the Granite. Only the Brave, I think maybe.
Oh
I
yeah, that
can't
sounds
see what
right.
it's called. Yeah, that's the Granite Mountain guys from Prescott. Yeah.
Yeah, and if the listeners, if you ever want to really see what wildland firefighters do, go watch that movie. And how much things can change in a heartbeat, and
Yeah.
it's a really good tribute to them, and a very
Mhm.
unfortunate circumstance. But that's the things that our firefighters deal with, especially instructors too. I mean, you guys have your risks, especially
Yeah.
too.
Yep. That's a prime example of, highly trained people. And sometimes it doesn't matter how trained you are, things can just change and it's out of your control. And
Yep,
it's unfortunate for sure.
it is. So you're saying about being out in the wildland fires and whatnot, and enjoying being out in nature, and it's definitely, you get to see some pretty cool scenery with that. But let's talk about that bull that's sitting behind you.
Yeah.
Early on, you talked about elk hunting
Yep.
and mule deer hunting. Let's talk
Mhm.
about that. What got you into that? When did that start?
You know what? It's funny. I am very new. I'm probably 2 years in. I grew
Love it.
up so my dad wasn't a big hunter. And I think it's just probably because neither was my grandpa. Neither of my grandpas were my grandpa, sorry, I have ADHD, so sometimes I go down these little paths to get you to where I
Me
want
too.
to
Don't worry.
be.
Get both of us on a podcast. It's a great idea.
Yeah. So my grandfather on my mom's side, he died when I was young. I was like 3. And so my grandma got remarried to my step grandpa, which I just consider my grandpa. But anyway, Bob was an avid hunter. Avid hunter. And I grew up where animals were like personified, watch
Yeah.
Disney movies, and I'm like, I don't want to kill Bambi's dad or mom.
Right.
That's messed up, like, and then, and literally that was kind of how it was in my mind until like I got older and was like, man, like it's a great skill to have. I love being outdoors. I don't really know anything about it. I start learning about it and to quickly realize that is not the case at all. Like they're not just like happy families running around out there. And they will kill each other trying to
Right.
get to, a doe or, or a cow, you know what I mean? Like
Not all sunshine and rainbows. That's for
no,
sure.
not at all. Yeah. Like I follow that page, Nature is Metal. And I'm like, yes, it is metal. Like, but
That's right. That's accurate.
yeah. And so, I was always intrigued by archery, and just because I'm like, I just feel like that's not that rifle hunting is not hunting, but like archery is like hunting. Like you have got to get in. And then I've learned, and because again, I don't know, like the tree stand in a cornfield is not a thing out here. Like it's just not. We just don't have that. So
Right.
mule deer hunting in the desert is incredibly hard. And I'm speaking from 2 years experience doing it, but it's incredibly hard. And every bow hunter that I've talked to is like, oh no, there's no bones about it. It's hard. And people are like, oh, so you got in hunting. So you picked the most difficult thing to do. And so, but man, it's just every time I go out, I learn something, and I was that guy where, everybody's like, okay, buy a bow, get some camo or whatever, start putting in, just start putting in. Cause it's going to take you a while to get drawn. And I get drawn for an archery bull
Oh, no way.
tag last year. And I'm like, so, I'm
Right away.
dropping thousands of dollars, getting everything. And then here we go,
Yeah.
and it's like the hardest thing I've ever done, greatest thing I've ever done, hooked for life for sure. I did not fill my tag, which was unfortunate.
That's hunting.
Yeah. And that's what I learned too, was like, I thought, well, when you go hunting, you're always successful. And that is not the case.
Very much not.
And so, yeah. And so like last year when I went out, I went out with my friend Jim, and he's a very experienced hunter. And even he was like, man, this is a difficult year, because they just weren't rutting. They just did not rut. It wasn't literally until like the last night we got a cold snap, and then they were just ripping bugles. And I'm just like, where was this the last 2 weeks,
Right.
And I did get a shot on one. I was by myself. So I went out, I did 11 days total. The last 4 days I was by myself. And so I like sat water, because I'm like, man, like I can call, but I'm not good at all the different, like I can do like a locator, bugle, cow call, but I can't do like chuckles and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like,
Right.
there's a lot going on trying to get into positions on these animals. And so it was like the next to last night, I sat water. I was in just like a little brushed out blind, and I was able to call in a bull. And it was a 6x6, nothing crazy huge, but it was good. I was insanely, I didn't anticipate how much I would be, shaking. And he was 40 yards. He was in the water. He turned to bugle. I drew back, I shot, and I hit his shoulder. And I knew
no.
just that hard stick. And I knew it. I could see that it only went in about that far. He jumped up. I cow called. He ran up what I thought was another 10 yards. So I knocked another arrow. Again, I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
I'm thinking he's going to run in any second, which I definitely had time to range him again. But I was just like, I think that's 50 yards. So I put a draw back. I let one fly. He was probably more like 60 yards, and it just right under his belly, hit the ground, took off. It sparked. He took off running, and and just didn't get it. Didn't make it happen. I'll tell you what, I came back and told my wife, for not being successful. I came back feeling incredibly fulfilled, and like I still felt like I won because I learned, now I feel like when I go in the woods, I don't feel lost.
No, it's good.
So
I mean, you're a brand new hunter, and the way you look at it, it's a puzzle, right? You got 100 pieces, and you put all 99 pieces together.
Yeah.
Actually, you almost got that last one all the way in there, right? I mean, for your first year, that's pretty impressive. That's really cool.
It was cool, man. It, like I said, just absolute rush, and man, I don't care how tough you are, how tough you think you are. 4 days in the woods by yourself is sketchy. Like when I was trying to track, and like, so I went to where I hit him. I ranged back or where I did the second shot and range back, and that's how I knew. I was like, okay, that was like, I was off on my yardage, but I was looking for blood, didn't see anything. And I saw as he ran off, my arrow was probably, it hit that bone. He's going to knock it off in a tree and be totally fine. But
they're tough.
I followed his tracks for like a mile and a half, and it was pitch black by myself. And then I get in some rocky area and I couldn't see his tracks anymore. I'm like, I need to get back to the side by side. And I remember called my buddy Jared, and I was like, and he actually works for Marsupial. I was just like, hey dude, he's trying to help me out, with anything. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh man, that's difficult. And he's like, did you find your arrow? I was like, no, I didn't find my arrow. And he's like, well, maybe you can go back in the morning and see if you can see anything, whatever. And so I did that, but I was also just on the phone. So I'm like, hey, I also need you on the phone, just in case I get a mountain lion take me out or something. And somebody knows.
Murdered. Yeah. And it can get really sketchy when that sun goes down. Man, nothing good happens when the sun goes down. That's for sure. That's pretty cool. No, good for you. That's exciting. I've always been an outdoor enthusiast myself, but I started my hunting career a little later in life too, which is nothing wrong with that. I think the best thing is being able to not only get out there and just relax and reset yourself, but spending that time with others too. You said you had gone with a friend for several days too. Like those are memories that you can't get elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. That was
go ahead.
I was just it just instantly hooked. And I told my wife like just a little bit ago, I was like, man, it's like, because I'm getting ready to go hunting with my brother-in-law got a cow tag, and so we're gonna go like October 17th. I think it opens up the 18th, so we're going up like 17th to the 20th, and I'm just like so excited because I still haven't cleaned one, so like I'm excited. Like if nothing else, I want to be there for that, so I can I can still just learn, cleaning an animal.
Yeah, biggest animal I've cleaned is a whitetail, so that's quite the task, especially when you're humped in there, and you got to get back to your side by side or whatever. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
there's some big elk down there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you have some world class deer between Arizona and New Mexico?
Oh yeah, on the San Carlos reservation. That used, I don't know if it still is, but it used to have the world record elk on it. I mean, massive. I got to go on a wildfire there a few years ago, and I was just like, I mean, the wildlife was incredible on that trip too. Bear and whitetail and like massive whitetail deer and massive elk. It was just incredible.
Yeah. Well, and Arizona is a very diverse state too. You know, a lot of people think Arizona, I think cactus and hot.
Oh,
I mean, that's there, but I went to Flagstaff a few years ago, and I don't think my wife at the time realized that there was that much snow there, and she was not happy with me.
Yeah.
But we were way up there, and it was absolutely gorgeous. But you know, being from Minnesota and being a Minnesota driver and getting up there and watching people in two-wheel drive with chains on their tire was kind of comical. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we don't know how to drive in snow, that's for sure.
I don't blame you. How often do you have it?
Yeah.
But turn it around on us. Like I can't go anywhere without air conditioning where you guys are ever. So
Yeah.
that's how it goes. But
Yeah.
no, it's super cool. Congratulations on, you know, having a nearly successful hunt. Hopefully things will turn around for you this next season.
Yeah, that's you know, I'm hoping, man. I was telling my wife, I'm like, it's just not fair. And she's like, what? I'm like, it was like the single most fun thing I've ever done in my life, and I can't do it every year because I got to get
Right.
drawn for it. You know, I can do over the counter, but
Yeah. Suppose you go up to Colorado and do over the
Yeah.
counter up there too.
yeah,
That's not too far at least, but
yeah,
no, that's cool. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. You know, one of the things I really, really wanted to talk about too, since we have a few more minutes here, was about the mental health side of things, you know, and some of the ups and downs that people experience in these professions and whatnot. And I just want to, what are the things that work for you to help with positive reinforcement of your mental health? Like when you're having a downtime, I know you do your social media, but is there something else out there that maybe others could dive into a little bit for when it comes to self-preservation, mind, body, soul?
yeah. I think for me, the things that really have helped me with maintain my mental health throughout my career would, one, like, I'm like you said, we talked about this peek behind the curtain of like who I am outside of the fire service. I think that's a big thing. Is like I don't have my identity wrapped up in the fact that I'm a firefighter. I love being a firefighter. I'm proud to be a firefighter. I'm it's an amazing, fulfilling career. It'll give you everything, and it'll also take everything. But for me, it's just I've just remembered that, you know, I'm a husband and I'm a father, you know, I'm a friend, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm all these things. And what I do for work is a firefighter. And sometimes I feel like people can get it flipped on where I'm a firefighter who happens to be these other things. And because, you know, when you know, God forbid you have a career ending injury or anything like that, or something happens in the career that you just didn't anticipate. It can be really unsettling when your foundation is shaken from you. And now you're like, what am I left with? And so for me, you know, my foundation is in my faith, you know, in Jesus Christ and my family. And that just for me is really what keeps me solid. You know, it keeps me centered. You know, we live in a broken world with broken people. And, you know, I just, for me, my faith in Jesus is what is what helps me. It was what gives me hope, because I know it's not always going to be like this. And actually, and for me also, just having like outdoors, that escape, you know, for me, the outdoors and my family, all these things, my comedy, my faith, these are all escapes from all the garbage, all the stuff that's happening, the bad things I see on calls and things like that. It makes me more appreciative of when things are, or like when I do get off duty and I get to spend time with my family and stuff like that. You know, I realize that not everybody gets that luxury. And so for me, it's spending time with, for me, hobbies are a big thing. So like music, I love to play music. I play guitar or drums. I love to just go hike. I like to go out and do glassing, you know, in the
Oh, cool.
outdoors. For me
Yeah.
to just to get out, I just feel like, you know, nature is just so healing in itself. And just getting out there and just being in nature. I don't know what it is. It's just good for our souls. For me, I also know that when I start to I can start to feel like I'll start to know like, man, I need to do is if I'm like not physically active, that's when I really will start to notice like, man, I just overall generally feel like crap. My mental health feels like crap. I just feel sluggard. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to see anything, but if I'm consistent with working out, and like my diet, eating good stuff, it's just good in, good out, I believe. And honestly, recently, dude, I got into, I've seen this whole cold plunging trend and
Oh
all that
yeah.
stuff. And at the gym we go to, it has a cold plunge, and I've gone by and I'm like, absolutely not. Screw that. That's terrible. I started doing it like, and this is only within like the last 2 months. And dude, like my mood overall, like people like see me on the internet, oh, he's a funny guy and this and that. And I'm like, well, I'm still just a normal guy that has the same struggles. I still get frustrated, get angry at stupid things that I shouldn't. I have 4 children.
Right. Yes.
Like I still have life. Life still hits me just like it hits everybody else. But I would say, man, that whatever that does to you, like the cold plunge with the different, releasing the different hormones in your body, man, like overall, my general mood my wife has even said like your general mood has just been better. And so I just think being consistent with exercise, good diet, and just for me, well, obviously like the cold plunge has really helped, but then also, like I said, just, the things that I'm passionate about, sticking with my passions is really what it's having that escape from the fire service, because a lot of times, and this is just me speaking from what I've seen and having friends that would probably admit the same thing. When you're completely wrapped up in just your job and just your career, you just don't have an escape. And I've even had to, and sometimes like I go through, on social media and I will unfollow pages, and it's nothing personal to the creator or anything like that. It's just, I can't have that keep coming into my feed. I got to clean that up, get that out of there, because it can be, it's an echo chamber, whether it's good or bad. And if it's negative stuff like that, it's just going to keep feeding you that same thing. And that can be really bad for your mental health. And I also recommend staying out of comment sections.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't imagine. I mean, you guys and the comment section has got to be crazy, but I feel you. I mean, I get it with our social media too, and just being outdoor enthusiasts that like to hunt, we get it too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably really good advice. The cold plunge, though, it's interesting you brought that up, because this last February we had 2 Burnsville officers and a firefighter that were murdered on a call up here, and we put together a mental health and wellness day for them. And for that, we brought in our friends at Abige on the backside that does equine therapy with horses. And then we brought in another person, Brittany Misquick, with Wellness That Fits. She's a psychologist. And then we came in as well. And one of the things that we did was not only let them know about who we are and what we do as an organization, but we brought in a sauna. I'm sorry, the Northerners will kill me for saying it that way, a sauna. And we brought a cold plunge with as well, and that the feedback that we got from the PD and the fire about the cold plunge, it was huge. Everyone thought it was just amazing how cleansing it felt, to get all warm and loosened up, almost uncomfortable, and then go sit in a freezing cold bath does not sound interesting at all. But they said that what it did for them, like, I don't know, releases endorphins or whatnot, but just felt like a reset of the body.
It really does. And I'm exactly the same way. Like I freaking hate cold water, but the cold plunge, if you're going to do it, I say, just get in it. Don't go slow. Just get in it. Cause otherwise you'll never, if you just get in it, the first 15 seconds suck and then you're good. And then it's just like your body, I mean, you're cold, but like, and then when you get out and like, if you like passively warm up, that's when like, you'll shiver and stuff like that. But it's like, it just makes you feel so energized, feels good. Like I said, my mood is improved. And then my wife also has she owns her own mobile IV business, and she does like wellness stuff. And she also has a hyperbaric chamber.
Oh, cool.
So
I've heard good things about those.
The HBot. Yeah, it's legit.
Huh.
So
that's pretty cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
This one's scary. 66% of Americans would struggle to pay for a $1,000 emergency. This one's scary. 66% of Americans would struggle to pay for a $1,000 emergency. We don't keep any money in the savings accounts, right? The scary part about that is that 8 out of 10 of us watching this right now are going to experience a $5,000 whoopsie every 10 years. Something's going to happen. Kid's going to break a leg, and there's going to be out-of-pocket max medical that year, right? There's going to be a hailstorm or a fire or some kind of a natural disaster that causes us to have to write a big old check for our deductible for the roof replacement or the car, right? Something's going to happen. And I want you to think back to the last time you had a financial emergency. Was it the event that caused the stress, or was it trying to figure out how to pay for the event that caused the stress?
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you joining us. Do you have any taglines or anything you want to do with your personality before we leave the podcast for a little hook for everyone?
Oh, man.
I put you on the spot. You can say no.
I don't know if I have any taglines. Yeah, check out Firefighter Fenton, morons. Yeah,
There
I'll
we
look
go.
if you check me out, I'll look very different and my voice will sound different. There's people that I've watched and go, like,
Is that you? Yeah.
So
Completely different.
so in case you haven't figured it out, the mustache is not real. But
I'm
when
disappointed.
last time we were filming in Illinois, it was before we just got done eating, and so I'm in the bathroom and I'm putting it on, and this guy walks in and goes, "My whole life was a lie," and I started laughing. I was like, "Oh, sorry, man." He goes, "And the voice?" I was like, "Yeah, sorry, man. I'm a huge fraud." And he started, I'm actually a firefighter. But he started laughing.
That's hilarious.
But he's like, he's like, "Oh my gosh, my whole life was a lie." I was like, "Sorry."
That's hilarious.
So
No, thanks for coming on. Do you do any speaking engagements or anything like that? Can people contact you for anything like that?
I have, yeah. In the past, I've gone a couple times, and actually, we went to New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, earlier this year, and that was amazing. Got to go there, and I got to MC it was for the Blood Cancer and Leukemia foundation in Auckland, New Zealand, and got to go there and did the Firefighter Sky Tower Challenge. So I got to do the climb in the Sky Tower, which was awesome. And then that evening I got to MC their event. So that was really, really cool. And I've done some other speaking engagements and stuff at some different conventions. So yeah.
That's cool. So how do people get a hold of you if they want to, like, not only just follow you on social media, but get a hold of you for something like that?
Yeah. Social media or at just firefighterfenton@gmail.com.
Very good.
So,
Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I hope to have some more conversations with you down the road and do something with Fire Department Coffee. Maybe we can get you up here for a gala in March. We'll have to let you know what our dates look like, but I think people like to see you up here. I think we have individual named AJ. He does social media notes, the Popo. Not sure if you've heard of him.
Yeah. Yep.
He might be coming up for that. So
That'd be cool.
yeah, it's just fun to get everyone in the same room that has a good personality and be able to humanize things a little bit. But I really do appreciate you coming on, though. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah. And I'll just hang on for a minute after the podcast, and we'll talk up a couple quick things. But for our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And as Brent said, you can find him as Firefighter Fenton on all the social media platforms and his YouTube, and just go dig in. It's just a nice little break and kind of refreshing to have a little humor in your life and take a peek into the profession of the firefighting world. And it's a lot of fun. So, but thank you again, Brent, and everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again on the next podcast. Thank you.
The Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast is made possible by the following sponsors: O'Neill Electric Contractors, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association, Relentless Defender Apparel, and Financial Cop Financial Advisors. Thank you for listening to the Hometown Hero Outdoors podcast. For more information, visit our website at hometownherooutdoors.org.